A job description for God. Nothing like easy topics on a Sunday morning. It depends on who you read, but somewhere between 70 and 80% of Americans answer that they believe into some type of God. And that's a tricky word, but I want us to look today not so much whether we believe in God or don't believe in God, but to look at what the elements, the requirements, what does God do? What is the job of God? And historically, we can go back and look at what that has been the experience humankind. The facts are we're all part of an inheritance. We have language, we have symbols, we have meanings, we have metaphors, we have understandings, we have beliefs, we have laws that we inherit. We're born to a culture. Most of us North American in the period of the last 100 years. We're influenced by whatever was going on there, whatever has happened. And in that 100 years, time has been moving along and discoveries have been made and changes. This is the truth of history from time immemorial. But today we stand here this morning in July 2014 to look at what the idea of God might mean. The gifts we have, the attributes that come to us from our past, they're the omnis. I love the omnis. I love those in seminary, and we had to all learn them. Omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent. And the omnis. Omniscient, infinite knowledge. God knows everything. Omnipotent. God has unlimited power. Omnipresent. God is present everywhere. Omnibenevolent. God is perfect goodness. And God is eternal and is a necessary existence for us. That is the gift we bring to this discussion this morning. That's what history has told us. There's theism. There's the idea that God is active in history and in people's lives. A proactive God. That tradition comes from the Christian, the Catholic, and to some extent the Jewish tradition. Deism is the next one. Deism is sort of a passive God, a non-active God. God, that agent in time and in history and in science, created all this, put it in order, and it works itself out. And then there's pantheism. Pantheism is God is everywhere. God is the energy in life that moves through and can't be identified. Talking about God is going into a forest and trying to define all the trees and saying all of this is very important. It's trying to count the number of, Doak, start again. It's trying to count the number of angels that can dance on the head of a pin. That's that old cliche about what God is. God is an idea that is persistent in the human experience. Some of us have retired that God, had left that mystery behind to say it has no place in our lives. Those who wrote about the death of God some 30 years ago came to that experience, but they came through it from a very sincere place because they were serious theologians. They came to say that the influence of God, the influence of pulpits, the influence of religious leaders, the influence of churches, the influence of religious understandings of life do not have influence anymore in the life of culture. Now look at this. If God is good and God is all-knowing and God is all-powerful, then the God is absent without leave, right? Look at the life around us. Look at what's going on. Look at the nonsense and the pain and the hurt and the transgressions that are going on human beings one to another. It is disgusting and it is trying. But I want to speak of a God of poetry, God of mystery, God of wonder, of that absent thing in our lives that we attribute to where we find things of importance. God is ultimate mystery. God is the wonder beyond our knowing. God's job for me is to say, Doak, it's okay. What would God do for you? I want some expressions. Y'all can see I'm losing it this morning because I feel so bad. So I'm going to talk with y'all a little bit about this. What's God's biggest job that you think of? I want some feedback here. Can somebody respond to me? Peace? God is a moral agent. God works in the lives of human beings to say we're one with another. Well, see, that's a good tenet that we were taught about God. God brings justice and passion, compassion and peace to the world. That's what Jesus spoke about. That's what the teachings of Judaism brought about. That we are endowed with a responsibility to be agents of love, living God's work out for us in the world. See, God can be an engineer. God can be a psychologist. God can be a judge, lawgiver. God can be a loving parent. Can God be all of the... Does it matter? Does it matter? Aren't we just talking about ideas that we not sure of? Aren't we just spending time trying to avoid what it means to be good one to another? How to find reasons to legislate morality that means something, that respects individuality? We are human beings called into relationship one with another. We have an experience of a God who directed and guided us to be this way. Jesus spoke of God as his Father. Moses spoke of God as the King of the universe. But we today in this world, in this life, see God's acting out in the lives of people as being mean and hurtful and evil. Who can send and bless an army that is violent? Well, that should never happen in the world where my God speaks. My God is the God of hope and understanding and love that invites people to be crafting a new way of being in the world, of understanding we've got finite resources. We have to find ways to share those. Every individual has to be involved in the productivity and the creation of what it takes to be alive. We all have to be involved in lifting and healing and tending to one another. That's what God needs to be for us in this world. So maybe God is just an image, an idea, an expression of the best that we can conceive in life. I had an old Unitarian friend of mine, James Madison Barr, did a writing years ago. He was a true old curmudgeon in Memphis, Tennessee. And he finally said that, to me, God is mysterium tremendum, but God is also ultimate possibility. Maybe God is that hope, that silence out there, that energy that keeps me moving and keeps me wanting to be engaged with you and the world. Maybe God is the mystery beyond our knowing. Maybe it serves no good purpose for me or anybody else to talk about God. Maybe we just ought to live out goodness in our lives. Maybe we ought to judge one another, as Dr. King said, by the content of their character, but also the depth and breadth of their compassion. How in the world can any of us remove ourselves from the hate and the pain of the world and sleep well at night? Well, we have to. But the only way we can really feel true to ourselves and the possibility that's always in us is to find ways to be healers, one person at a time, one experience at a time, one cause at a time, one choice at a time, to reach outside of ourselves and say, I'm going to be God to the world. I'm going to be goodness to the world. I'm going to be hope to the world. I'm going to be affirmation to the world. Because the world as it works right now is filled with stuff, matter, toys, distractions, addictions. What really matters? What really matters? What really matters is the love that we find. What is love? Love is the respect. Love is the joy. Love is the character. Love is the kindness that we find with one another when we greet one another and are fully engaged outside of ourselves in another's existence. It is the holy in me meeting the holy in you and us celebrating the universe. It's the dance of imagination. It's the dance of creativity. It's the dance of hope that says beyond our dyings, beyond our surgeries, beyond our hurts, beyond our recoveries, is the gift of life that is beautiful and magnificent, and we are a part of it. We have 5 senses. We have a heart. We have eyes. We have ears. We have touch. We have taste. We can partake of this wonder and hold it as a precious gift and be nurtured and nourished by it. The job description for me for God is pretty simple. It's the mystery that moves beyond my knowing. It's what keeps me going. Do I want to press that on you? Do I want to say, this is God and you got to do this because my God tells you so? No. What's the best for you? What is the best thing you can do for your own life? Appreciate others, understand your dependency, understand how we must relate to one another, and be creative in how we do that. And try. And when you get road rage, you go, I got road rage. I'll get over it. When you're mad at your spouse, I'll get over it. When your children make you crazy, I'll get over it. Staying awake, staying involved, staying engaged, staying a participant in life is what God calls us. God is just a word. God is a word that helps us explain the mystery beyond our knowing, but is as close as me and you. The touch of that other person beside you, the breath in your lungs, the sun in the sky, the storm and the rain in the afternoons. That's all a manifestation of the wonder of life, the wonder of hope and energy and being. Paul Tillich said, God is the ground of being. Immanuel Kant said, God is that moral agent in the universe that makes me see the other as myself. All the great teachers have taught us what it means to be a human being. They've used God as the voice of authority and the meaning that brings you that. But I'm going to trust me and you to figure it out ourselves. I'm going to be bold and adventuresome. I'm going to say you've got enough sense, if you've got enough courage, to see what's best for you and the world around you. Engage it as brothers and sisters. Engage it as co-creators. Engage it as wonder makers. And we can make war, and we can create toxic situations, and we can separate people one from another because of their color and the ideology and the life they live. But when it comes down to it, we've got one planet. We've got one biosphere. We've got one hope, and that's us negotiating with one another enough hope, enough patience, enough creativity to craft a life that's worth living. I think God's in that. I think God's some kind of energy in that. But I don't need it to understand life. It's not an abstract. It's not a Santa Claus in the sky. It's not a cosmic bellhop. I didn't pray to God to get a new heart. I prayed to life that it be what it has to be, and for me to be able to experience it and understand it. I don't want somebody else to die so I could get their heart. That's the process that happened. But that's my gifting. I had nothing to do with that. But what I did have something to do with, and my humanity had something to do with, is to look at the creativity and the possibility it would take for science to create that event. Because I have someone else's heart in my chest. Because someone said we can live as human beings and we can recycle. We can be one to another and lift up and heal and restore life in this experience. Now, that wasn't some God dictating from on high. This is not science fiction, folks. This is us down in the dirt, in the laboratory, in the science place, in the lonely nights of our hearts, trying to say, what can we do to make life better and make it fuller and make it deeper? How can we save life? What's the salvation that we can bring to the world? Our energy, our creativity, our love, and our courage to move past all this no crap. Well, they're funny people, and they talk funny, and they don't. I was at McDonald's this morning, and I'm always intimidated by foreigners. I'll admit it. I don't know what to do with people who talk funny and look funny, but I live with them, you know. And there was this lovely, I think they were a Hispanic family, and they were dressed so nice, and they were so nice to one another. And I thought to myself, look at those people. They're going to be my heroes for today. They're in a foreign world, living their life, and they're at McDonald's just like I am. They're at the cathedral of commercialism on Sunday morning just like I am. And they're going to be in this world, and they're a part of my world. And then there was this 3 or 4 over at the tea place dispenser, and I mean, they could have been Greek gods. Bill was there. He probably saw them. I mean, who are these people? Where do they come from? Well, they had a Germanic or Middle European accent, I thought, and they were just as sweet as I can be. So they asked about milk for their coffee or their tea, and I said, and so I tried to instruct them. I don't know what this means, but I know that is what is important was there, because we as people engage one with another, and the challenge of our living, the experience we had when we came out of our mama's womb, was to learn how to be in the world, how to be at home in the world. That's what Thomas Wolfe and all the great writers tell us and remind us. We do all this journeying, we do all this discovering, we do all these bad choices, we all do these positive choices, we all do these love affairs, we all do these aspirations just to get home again, just to be at home, just to be at place in this world. Well, the God in my imagination says to me, Doak, you are home, act like it. Here's your family, Doak, do the best you can with them. Love the unlovable, lift up the beaten, address and be kind to those who need it. And grab hands with everybody you can to work for the day when all God's children, like Dr. King said, can lift one another up. Because we are one of a whole and a mystery that moves beyond our understandings. Our science will never be able to define it, but science is the tools that help us understand it and bless it and move it from destruction to creativity, to despair to hope. We have all that in our hands and our hearts and our minds. It's a blessed thing. So I commend the job description to us of God. Of God is that which gives us some hope, gives us some understanding. But Mr. Fuller, who was the guy who came up with this notion here, he stole my quote when I was looking up quotes. He said, God is not a noun, it's a verb. God is an action in the world. This is my words now, but those actions only come through our hands and our experiences. And as they are taught about Jesus being the incarnation of God, you and I are incarnations of God. We're the incarnations of that magic and mystery in the universe that can sustain and enrich life. We're the agents. We're the ones who are given here, going back even to the old creation myth. We are the stewards of this life. We've got an opportunity to take its gifts and sustain them or destroy them, to analyze them and make them work for us. But there are always implications, and there are always ways that we have to change and perfect and tweak. I commend a God of love to you, a God of hope and renewal. Every creature is a word of God, Maker Elkhart said. Reason is God's crowning gift to humanity, Sophocles said. God is love, John said, and God is hope. And we are of God, and we are God. Amen.